Hello and welcome to the Dragons Lair podcast in association with Riverside Sports Bar, the home of live sport and great food in Newport. I'm Jamie and joining me as always is Gavin Thomas. How are we, Gav?
I'm very well, Jamie, very well. Another wonderful sporting weekend.
It hasn't gone well, as I can tell.
No.
Come on, tell me what happened. Tell me the results.
We all know the Dragons result. County didn't have a great day, and Hastings United, who I also go and watched, were 5-1 down at half time in
Right.
in more or less a relegation clincher.
And what was the final score in the end?
5-1.
Oh, right, okay.
But yeah, managed not to leak anything in the second half. But the bloke who scored two of their goals started the season playing for us as well. So
Oh, yeah.
it's
Salt
nothing
in the wound.
worse. Oh, nothing worse.
Salt in the wound, yeah. Oh dear. Okay, so unfortunately, Gav can't be with us, but I'm pleased to say that we do have a special guest this week. One of the hardest working sports reporters in Wales, as his Twitter bio says, he's frantically swapping between Dragons and Newport County. Welcome to the pod, Chris Kirwan. How are we doing, Chris?
I'm good, thank you. I'm going to have to be upbeat after him and all his sporting worries. There, I'm the upbeat one. There we are.
That's going to be pretty difficult to do after we talk about Friday night's game, isn't it? Oh dear. Okay. Yeah, great to have you with us, Chris. Let's get straight into it then and look back on what happened on Friday night. So it was Edinburgh 38, Dragons 5. Dragons paying the price for an abysmal first half performance. In fairness, the second half was a bit better, but let's be honest, the game was well over as a contest before half time, just as it was against Connacht, Scarlets, and Munster. So, Chris, you covered this game for the Argus. Let's be honest, it was a result as expected, but Dragons were hopeless in our first half, and that's where the damage was done, wasn't it?
It was. They were obviously playing into a bit of a win, but it was that burst, wasn't it, that just pretty much killed the game. I don't think Edinburgh were great shakes, but it wasn't the best of games, but it went, to be honest, as I expected.
Did it surprise you though about the manner of the performance in the first half? Because like I said, we have seen it so many times, haven't we? They just seem to capitulate when teams get going. So was that kind of as expected, or did we think it would be slightly better?
No. You hoped it'd be a bit tighter after the way the Ulster game had gone, but it was, to be honest, mate. As soon as the teams were announced, you're thinking, "Blimey, it's going to be a long evening." So I just feel this season is what it is. It's one of those where they've not got the squad, they've not got the quality, they've not got everything there. I don't know. It was a frustrating evening, but at the same time, I'm not going to put the boot in too much over it.
No, you're right. It is what it is. So we just haven't got the quality. And like you said, you looked at the squads, didn't you, before kick-off? And Edinburgh, they've got their Scottish internationals back, and we're riddled with injuries. Yeah, we knew it was going to be a tough one. But Gav, what did you think of the game on Friday night? What were your takeaways from it?
Well, I've kind of Chris has hit the nail on the head a little bit. Yeah, I don't think Edinburgh are very good. Yeah, they might have Scottish internationals, but I don't think they play particularly interesting rugby. Or kind of a team with half a brain should be able to beat them. The problem, I think we were massively underpowered. Our tight five was weak and was never going to compete with the likes of Schumann. But then the other issue was, well, I think Rodri, you said to me in a message, and that kind of Rodri had not his best game, is the best way to describe it.
Yeah. Rodri Williams had the worst game of rugby I've ever seen him play. And it was so unusual because this is a guy who's always so reliable for the Dragons. And they say every player is entitled to a poor performance, don't they? But I'm not gonna lie, that was an absolutely stinking performance from Rodri. He just looked off the pace, didn't he?
It was terrible. Yeah, he just didn't look connected to either the backs or the forwards. He wasn't getting to the breakdown quickly enough, and when he was just making poor decisions. It was just a very, very poor performance by him. But yeah, it didn't help that the scrum was on roller skates for chunks of the game as well. it was just a hard game to watch.
See, I didn't think the scrum was that bad.
I was going to say, I thought the scrum went pretty well, given how I was expecting it to go. I think Paolo Latu had a very good game. He's not the answer, but I think he performed pretty well. And I thought
they held their end up, but the problem was the ball wasn't getting out quickly. It was always under pressure. It was better than I was imagining, if I'm honest, but it struggled.
Yeah, but like Chris said, I thought the scrum went okay. I was expecting a lot worse. When
it could have been
Paulo
worse.
Latu was named a tight end, we are kind of thinking, and I've got to hold my hands up. I'm not a big fan of Chris Coleman, but he's been really good for the Dragons in recent weeks.
I think Chris is I think he's shaping up into being a good sort of club man. I think he's a good at that level. I think I may have written it, but his aim should be to be a sort of Lloyd Fairbrother sort of really good, solid player at that level. And I think he's coming into a good age for a tight head. He's had a lot of rugby, and I think, to be honest, for him, he's been a victim of having been the only tight head at times. I think Chris has done a pretty good job for a lot of the season, given that they just haven't been able to take him out of the firing line and give him that week off and say, just go on a bit of a break, whatever. We'll use two other tight heads for this week. They just haven't had that luxury, and I think that is what, and I'm sure you'll come into it later, the recruitment, that's what it's designed to do, to be able to share some of that load on players.
But that's been the challenge all season, wasn't it, Chris? Guys who could play at this level but need to be eased into it have been flung into it with very little kind of regard for how well it's going to go, because that's what we've got.
Yeah, I think one of the main issues has been, and it was certainly the case on Friday, is that you don't have that 60-minute turn to the bench impact. It just hasn't been there, unfortunately, and that's been taken out of the coach's hands. They've not been able to select accordingly. They have in certain places. Back row is all right at the minute, isn't it? Being able to bring on Basham. It hasn't been at times where they've had two blind sides. They've previously had to use both Ryan Woodman and Shane Lewis using the same back row, and I'm not sure that's perfect. So it's sort of there's always been a different problem, I guess, in that sense, where they haven't had the strength to bring on that oomph like they do at hooker at the minute with Elliott and Brodie Coughlin.
Yeah, fair points. Hugh Anderson had a lively game. He did some good things, and then he did some things that perhaps not so good. Chris, how did you rate his performance? And would you say that he's been a shining light in a very miserable season for the Dragons? I mean, there is one positive there, isn't it? But he is young and he will make mistakes.
Oh, he's definitely a positive. He's already providing the Dragons with that different sort of option at 15 for when Gus comes back. Gus is badly missed in terms of his leadership. But Hugh, I think he'll profit from this season of just getting those minutes and racking it up. So he's brilliant with ball in hand. He's shown that already. He's probably been a little over keen with the odd offload here and there. That's you're not going to tell him to stop doing that. That's part of his what makes him exciting. It's as ever, it's learning when and where, which even the most brilliant counter-attacking players they learn, don't they? And he's admitted himself, it's communication is a big thing. But he's coming in at 20, and that probably showed at certain points in Edinburgh. I know it was down to Rodri Williams and Ashton Hewitt for that try, whereas just no one in the backfield, but other people can communicate that across, can't they? The old back three working as a unit. So there's things there, and defensively he'll improve with experience. But no, he's out of a talent, isn't he? So that's certainly one to be excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a lot of talk about him possibly going on Wales's tour to Japan. What do you think, Chris? Do you think he's got a good shot, or would you rather him stay at the Dragons and perhaps learn his craft a little bit more at club level before he gets parachuted into Wales?
I think there'd be merit in taking him not necessarily capping him, just take him and seeing the experience. I think there's certainly he's a player who'd step up to that, give him a taste of what he could have in the future. They did that with, I know he's not been capped, but Aaron Owen had similar in the last, I think that was the last Lions tour year, wasn't it? When he was brought into the Canada games that were in Canada and Argentina, I think, in Cardiff. So it's one where I think Wales are in a position where they need wins, don't they? So that, and I think there are can be plenty of other options in the back three, because not many are going away with the Lions. So that they're in pole position, but yeah, take them along. I don't see any issues with that.
Oh. That said, though, there's not much value in taking Josh Adams or Liam Williams to Japan either, is there? Really, it's maybe trying some of these back three players might be worthwhile. Yeah,
no, I agree. And I know when you mentioned it, Chris, he's an unsung hero, isn't he, in this Dragons team? We need 15 and Iwan Owens in the Dragons, because that is a guy that gives everything week in, week out for a losing cause, and I think he's been terrific. He's really developing as a leader as well, isn't he? I think I'd be really impressed with him.
Yeah, he is a very impressive young man. Well, he's not sure if it's age, but he's mid-20s now. I feel for him, because he's just always in a losing side at the minute, and he does put everything in. I think it'd be interesting with his position is if Harry Ackerman can get a run of games, because he's a very exciting 12 himself. That would put real pressure on an Iron as well. That's what you want, isn't it? Someone really pushing him for that spot. So I think Nye is he's come on. I think he's been a victim of. I think Joe Westwood's doing well as a young player, but no one's really grabbed that 13 because Harry Wilson hasn't been given what we all hoped he would. Whether he's been used properly, who knows? You can argue about that, but yeah, there's not been the steady 10 or 13 probably either side of Nye. So
no,
yeah, he's been a victim of that.
Yeah, no, quite right. I had a lot of messages during the game on Friday night, as I always do when the Dragons are playing. My WhatsApp was pretty busy. Almost all of the messages I had were saying the same thing: how poorly coached we looked. I had a lot of comments like that. A lot of our supporters have been saying the same thing, but when people on the outside are saying it, then I think that's rather telling. Did anyone else notice how weird it was, the amount of times the camera kept cutting to Philo Tia during the Scrum 5 coverage? Did anyone else notice that? They kept cutting to him all the time. They barely focused in on Sean Everett, the Edinburgh coach. I thought that was slightly strange.
I think blame the Scots for that. I think I would have been their director constantly obsessed by Philo, but
I just thought it was really odd. Gavin, I'll come to you now. So after all the discourse that we've seen about cutting the reach, we talked about on the last pod, we did a deep dive, didn't we, about Warburton's comments and everything else. We really need to see the Dragons start to be competitive, don't we, and getting wins on the board. And they're not doing it, are they? And if anything, they're just proving their critics right with another abject performance. It's frustrating, isn't it?
Hugely so, because it's not a good squad. I'm not going to pretend it's a good squad. We have recruited poorly, but the effort there just appears to be lacking effort for me, and appears to be lacking that mindset we talked about last week. And 20 minutes into that game, we look disinterested. And that might be really, really kind of unfair on the players, but I didn't get the sense they were fighting. It just felt really lackluster. And it lacks direction.
I think that's a bit harsh. I don't think you can accuse them of not caring or anything like that. I don't think that's the case. I think they do care. They want to get it right, but they're just in a horrible spot at the minute, and they're just it's so lacking in confidence.
You're probably right. You are right, Chris. They are trying, but it's frustrating now.
Oh no,
and it's been frustrating for a number of years, and I get what you're saying. Kind of players play because they want to try, they want to win. But that never looked like a team that was going to win on Friday, did it? Not once. Not once did I think there's a team that could beat the other team here.
No, I think for me, it's just about being competitive. I don't expect Dragons, especially with the squad we got now, to go up to Edinburgh and win. But then again, I don't expect us to be, game over inside 30 minutes. I think that's unacceptable. I really do. And that's what's frustrating, that we're not even competitive. Losing is one thing, but when you're not competitive, I think that's even worse. Philo Tier after the game said, I most definitely saw things that we can build on. We saw glimpses in the second half in the first 10 or 15 minutes when we applied pressure and managed to score points. But this is about focusing concentration and staying in the scrap. When things aren't going well, it becomes a trend or a habit, and we have got to break those habits and stay in the moments. Chris, there's clearly a mental block at the Dragons, isn't there? I think we can all agree with that. When the pressure gets turned up, the Dragons always fall to pieces. There's questions being asked around the environment, the culture, and the standard of coaching. And it's a difficult question for you to answer. I appreciate this, but how on earth do you turn around a mentally weak team like the Dragons? How do they go about doing it, Chris?
Well, lots of coaches have tried this to change this way. A lot said about culture, and a lot previously. One way is recruitment. You have a big turnover, but once again, we're in that old chestnut of like, what pool are the Dragons buying from? When they're going to market, they're not the first choice for anybody.
No.
They've got to pay more for certain players, or really sell what they're doing to others, which can be done. But it's a slog, and it's probably it's not what fans want to hear, but it's almost like you need a few recruitment windows, don't you, to get that, to shape that squad. Yeah. And that means it needs to be probably steady improvement. I know things can't really get much worse, can they? But it needs to be another step forward next season, with the new recruits making an immediate impact, the current young players making progress again, and you can build upon that, and you slowly chip away probably at the players that are there because they need numbers. They're probably not of good enough quality to be at the top end of the league, but you need so many locks, you need so many props, you need everything. You can't just go, right, you're all rubbish, you're all out, because there aren't enough players of sufficient quality to then fill your squad. So that's probably the big point. And then it's recruiting on that character, which certainly I remember the Dean Ryan days. He did try and do that with a few sort of, I guess, talisman, didn't he? With the Will Rowlands.
Yeah,
was they went for him big, and the difference when Will Rowlands was in that team to when he wasn't was stark. That was, remember that. Well, it wasn't the Dean Ryan team at the time, but that first block under Flanagan, when he'd just taken over, Will Rowlands was in it. The Dragons were really good, and then he got his injury, and things went to pot a bit after that. So it's getting a few of those players, I guess. Sorry, I'm probably a bit of a rambling answer, but I don't
know. No, at all. That's perfect.
Because there aren't easy answers, are there? And it's you can say we need to change the culture, but it's bloody hard to do it, because there are players that individually you look at them, and if you ask Philo Tier, he'd say, is an Aaron Owen a good leader? Is Harry Keddy a good leader? They'd say yes, but they're also, I guess, been exposed to just defeats, and it is mentally, that is hard if you've had losing seasons on.
Culture's become ingrained, don't they? And it's not a case of, we'll bring in 5 new blokes and a new coach and I'll change everything, because it's not as simple as that.
And you mentioned as well the coaching. They're all good coaches. Like Sam Hobbs and Matt O'Brien are very highly rated young coaches working under Philo Tier, who's probably got a good pedigree. But is it they're looking to address that, aren't they? With the new another assistant who is a more experienced. That is clearly needed, an older head in that group. And to let people specialize, and not, it's just people wearing too many hats as usual, isn't it, on the coaching side of things. So it's
you're right.
I think that will be an important, if they can get the right appointment there, that will help.
No, absolutely. I don't have anything else to say on Friday night. Even Sarah Elgar used to be said on Scrum 5, didn't she? It's hard to take positives from it. It is what it is. We all expected it. Just very, very disappointing. Any further thoughts from you of you on Friday night? Any other takeaways? No? No, fair enough. Then let's move on. I wanted to talk about injuries, Chris, because injuries have hammered this Dragon squad, as you know. And I'm going to go off on a slight tangent here. You'll know about this, and Gav, you might remember this. Do you remember when Michael Flynn was Newport County manager? And they had that one season, they were absolutely decimated by injuries. This also happened under Graham Coughlin, I know, but under Flynn, this one season, they were decimated by injuries. And do you remember when Michael Flynn came out and said, I want an investigation as to why this kept happening? He demanded an investigation with the medical team and the people at County to find out why the club were picking up so many injuries. I kind of feel like that's what the Dragons need to do, because I can't understand for the life of me why we always pick up so many injuries. And I don't have the data or evidence to say this worse than the other three regions, but it certainly feels like it to me, Chris. Every season, we seem to pick up so many injuries in a paper-thin squad. It's really hurting us. Do you have any explanation as to why that could be happening? Because we can't keep saying it's bad luck, can we? I don't think this is bad luck for it to be happening as frequently as it does. What do you make of the situation?
Well, I certainly know there'll be people who have done the relevant qualifications, looking pretty closely into it. Ryan Chambers was brought in last summer, as head of performance. There's Ryan Harris is a really good conditioning coach, and then the medical team they'll be looking into it all. And I guess if there are any patterns, they'll be addressing it. Sometimes it's just it's horrible to say it's luck. I remember one of my many chats with Ollie Griffiths, and he'd get annoyed because there'd always be something different. It'd be his problem, some sort of contact injury. Freak ones getting smashed by a Russian on one occasion in a legal challenge. So it's one of those. There is an element of luck. There are the concussion ones are hard to take, because they rightly have been taking people out, and I think the Di Flanagan approach that has continued, where they are they're very proactive in taking people out the firing line. As to anything, I don't know. They will be looking at everything when it comes to the load of the week and everything like that, because end of the day we want results to improve as well. So you want them probably training at proper intensity to get towards that, which it's almost a vicious circle then, isn't it? Because they don't have the squad at the minute to train at full intensity, because they just aren't the numbers.
I think you hit the nail on the head though, Jamie, when you talked about the squad being paper thin, and that's where it becomes more evident, because we just don't have the strength in depth, and any amount of injuries is going to impact us. But the amount we do have just makes it even worse, because we're down into like 4th and 5th on our depth charts for certain positions.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating. I think when we have everyone available and we can put a full strength 15 and have a good 23, I do think Dragons are competitive. The problem is that rarely happens, does it? We're not able to put out our best 15 because we're just so hammered by injuries all the time. And there's some guys coming in. You got the younger guys who are learning on the job, and then you got some senior pros, I'm not going to name them, who aren't up to the job. But that's where the Dragons are. That's just the squad they're operating with. But yeah, I just find it very frustrating, the injuries. Like I said, this isn't just this season. No. It's been happening now for a little while. And I do want someone to do a Flinny almost to come and go, right, we need to figure out what the hell is going on here, because it just seems to be happening all the time. It's really frustrating. But anyway, that's the injuries bit done. I want us to cast our minds back to the first block of the season. So Dragons beat the Ospreys. I know it felt a long time ago now, doesn't it? It feels like a lifetime ago, but they did. Just about. They beat the Ospreys. They then went away to Leinster and lost, but it was a credible performance, I thought. Those back-to-back home games against Sharks and Lions, and they should have been won. And then we played Benetton. Benetton were the better team, no issues there. And Dragons were, let's be honest, absolutely awful away to Connacht. And that proved to be Di Flanagan's last game in charge. So, Chris, that first block at the beginning of the season, it was encouraging in one way, but it was also frustrating as well because we could and should have won those 3 games. And if we did, Dave Flanagan is probably still in the job, isn't he?
Oh, definitely. I think that's it just that you felt the season sort of almost going away from you there, because you start looking at fixture lists, don't you? And you think,
Yeah.
blimey, they were our ones as well. Now they've also had the Derby failures has been a killer as well, hasn't it?
Especially against Cardiff.
Yeah.
The decade of
yeah,
defeats against
yeah.
Cardiff. Will we ever beat Cardiff?
Yeah. So it's those, and you do sort of, you look at the winnable ones as you'd probably call them, for where the Dragons are, and if they'd got those over the line, certainly in one of the ones against the South Africans, I think that's a mental block gone as well, isn't it? Because they've not beaten the South African side. You tick that off. So basically next season they need to have a good first block. They need to probably beat a South African side. They need to beat Cardiff, certainly, and notching away one as well. It's sort of, I'm asking for a lot there, but it's it was that almost set the tone for the campaign, didn't it? The first block, because they were really good as well, but even in that one, you felt that they were physical for those first games, but that almost took a toll in those performances against Benetton and in Galway. They just they didn't, that physicality dropped at those.
No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Can I ask, Chris, when you heard the news the Dragons had parted company with Dave Flanagan, was you surprised, or could you see it coming?
I was surprised, and I was disappointed, to be honest. I think Dai's a really good bloke. He's he properly cares about the Dragons. He's thoughtful, caring. He's a really, really decent man. I felt in an ideal world it would have kept him on a bit further, but the Dragons say that he'd wanted clarity on what his role was for the future, so that brought that forward. I think it's a shame, because he'd put in a lot of hard yards when there was a lack of support for him in terms of to cut costs. So everyone's gone through this before, but it's that he'd had no head of recruitment. He was working without defence coaches at various times, so he'd had some tough times. So it was almost a shame that his contract situation didn't mean that he knew he'd get the full season and get to build again. But it's pro sport, isn't it?
Yeah, but you are right, though. I did feel sorry for Dave, because there was no director of rugby, there was no head of recruitment, and he had no defence coach at that time because Simon Cross had left for America. And that's where I felt the club really let Dave down, didn't give him the support that he needed. It's a shame. And we had him on the pod, didn't we, Gavin? And just a really nice guy, isn't he?
Yeah. They weren't getting the results, but we aren't getting the results now, are we? So
I would say we're better under Dave than we are under currently.
I would agree. I think.
Yeah. He was good on Scrum 5 as well. I don't know if either of you caught Dave Flanagan on Scrum 5. Still very passionate about the Dragons, no bitterness at all.
I think he'll get a good. His next job will be. I think he'll go back to being an assistant, some sort of a attack coach, maybe kicking coach. Who knows? A sort of right hand man, and I think he'll do well at that and take stock. And you never some people don't like being that head role. Certainly the aspects of the job where he came into recruitment, he's probably took up too much of his life at times, and he didn't have that focus of on-field action, which I think would have been more suited to him. But there we go.
No, absolutely. Wish him well for the future. Hope he does pick up a job soon. Let's talk recruitment then. Let's not beat around the bush. The Dragons recruitment that's just gone, that has been an absolute disaster, isn't it? Only Shane Lewis-Hughes has been a good signing. The rest have made no impact. Solomon Fanaki, who Gavin thinks doesn't exist, he actually does exist, Gav. We've seen him. Me and Chris have met him as well. That's been a total waste of money so far. No, he is real. He is a real person. Trust me. I'm excluding Ollie Burrows from this because I think he's one for the future, and he has recently had
Yeah,
a shoulder up. So
yeah.
I'm not going to include him in this. But let's be honest, recruitment has been a massive flop. Harry Wilson is an interesting case. So I watched him play for Ebervale against Bridgend last Thursday. He did okay. Set up Colby Reese's try. Great finish, by the way, from Colby Reese. But other than that, didn't really set the world on fire. Chris, that recruitment, they're paying the price for poor recruitment, haven't they? Let's be honest, the Dragons.
Yeah, it's yeah. No, Harry Wilson's an odd one because
Yeah.
he was there's clearly the player in there. Whether he's he needs to show more to grasp it. I understand he's a young man coming over the other side of the world, and he's coming to a side that aren't winning. But you need more from an overseas player than he's showing. And like as you say in that every game, he's physically he should be doing more at that level for someone who's played Super Rugby. So it'll be interesting what happens with him. I think Steve Cummins is one who's been unlucky. I think the concussions thing knocked him for 6. So I think he's. I wouldn't be too hasty in saying he's been a disaster signing because he's been one in another area of the team that they've had no luck. I think the merits of all the signings on paper look good signings.
They did at the time. Yeah, we said that.
Yeah.
So that is the nature of recruitment. I think one thing with Cummins in particular, you do see him, and he is fully invested. He is helping people. He is getting involved. So he's one I wouldn't completely bin off as being a terrible one. Lloyd Evans probably hasn't. He's not grasped his chance.
No, I'm very disappointed with Lloyd Evans. I gotta be honest, really disappointed with him.
Yeah, and then he injury misfortune himself. So he's one. The thing is, it's like anything that those that do move on, their next moves they'll look like world beaters. You know that's an actual fact. They'll move on and they will look really good at their next club. That's just a
prime example. Co Tompkinson, who's now playing for the Western Forces Super Rugby, he's playing brilliant. Looks world class.
Well, he's an odd one, isn't he? Because they've struggled at 13, and strangely he could have. It's timing, isn't it? Because sometimes you wonder whether would he have been a philo player? I don't know. He could have, but he could have brought that oomph. So it's it's one of those.
Yeah, no,
I'm not convinced Wilson is a 15. That 13 rather. That's my. The more I think about it now, I watched the Ebervale game after the fact, and he's a winger. I think if you could play him on the wing, he'd actually be better there than a centre. I don't think he's quite got the nous to play at 13, because we've talked about it before. The 13 defensively requires quite a lot of understanding of what's going on around you. And I think if you could just get him running straight lines and defend in the channel near to the touchline, you'd get more out of him.
You can play at fullback and on the wing.
Yeah.
Well, I think he is a winger. I don't think he is a 13.
I'm not. Has he got the gas to be a winger? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
Certainly, the things that it's just the things that you associate with Aussie outside backs being just good footballers, and he's had some clangers, unfortunately. And whether I just think that
his passing isn't what you would expect of a bloke who's played down.
Is that once again? Is it a confidence thing? I don't know. It's that's one where he's just in a bit of a rut. But you want him working hard, grafting, and showing that sort of appetite, which you need at 13 as well. Which I mean that young Joe Westwood does. So yeah, no, it'll be interesting with the next recruitment batch and outside. 13 stroke outside back. I think they could probably do with a bit more quality there.
Yeah. Well, that's a talk for the marquee player, isn't it?
Well, that is one. Yeah, it's the promise has been made, hasn't it? It's not easy. It's not easy, even if you're committed to the marquee player. It's not easy selling the Dragons. So yeah, fingers crossed
No, it's not.
they get a good one.
Not with our reputation. No, quite right. You were at the
No.
Q&A, Chris. David Wright revealed there were no medical assessments done on the signings. There were groans from supporters. What was your reaction when you heard that news?
Well, I'm, I don't. I believe that they did do medical checks of players. I don't. That's not.
They must have.
The notion that they just said, "Oh, here's a contract. Here you are." That's not true. So it's very hard to do certain medical checks of someone who's halfway over the other side of the world. They did look into the medical history. They've done. The medical team looked into players. I'm confident in saying that fact. The notion that they just didn't look into the medical history of any of them, I'm confident in saying isn't true. So that's an interesting one to make that statement. I think.
Why would they say that then, Chris?
Well,
Because I agree with you. I can't see they've just gone, "I'll tell you what, fly over from New Zealand, they'll be fine."
Well, I don't know why they did that. You can say I don't know. I believe there were medical checks on people. But how detailed they were, I don't know. I'm not privy to that. And how much I don't work in that sphere, so I don't know how detailed you are able to go into medical checks of people. Like, if, for example, would a player have to disclose their concussion history? I don't know if if you have to do that, if the club asks for that, do you have to give it? I don't know.
I would imagine so. No, that's the kind of thing that would have to be. I imagine that's
from a prospective club. Like, I don't know.
But there's insurance and.
But we're all to insurance. Yes, that's the case. But to a prospective club, so this is the thing. We're all guessing with this.
Yeah, we don't know.
The notion that they did nothing was, I don't know. I think that's a bit. It felt like a bit of a cheap shot on the Di Flanagan who's gone. To be honest,
that's what I thought. That's exactly what I thought.
So I just think that's a bit of a, it's a bit of a buck passing that. But there we are.
Agree, completely agree. No one's taking responsibility for it. It did feel a bit like.
But it's just rather than just saying, recruitment hasn't been great. But there's been a bit of bad luck with injuries. We'll try and learn. Well, that's what you'd say. But there we are. That's maybe David Wright will say I'm wrong and there was nothing. But I'm told otherwise.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. There was a bit of a moment, wasn't it, the Q&A when that was announced.
I thought he came across very well, mind you, David Wright.
He did.
The grander scheme. I think that is his style of just straight shooting, as it were.
He's different to Buttress, though, isn't he, Chris? He's a very different character. He's more straight shooting, isn't he?
They are, and I suppose that could be a strength, can't it? When they're both, they're both there in the boardroom. I'm sure they have their strength.
I'm not sure how wise it was, though, to publicly say that they're gonna aim for top 8 and win the Challenge Cup, though. Because even in your article, you did write that you admitted that part when you interviewed him because you didn't want him getting pelters.
I just think that was naive. It's owners come in with excitement, but we've all seen a lot more of the Dragons and the realism of how hard it is. You can be ambitious, and that's important, isn't it? To show a bit of, but it is slow and steady is what's needed, and I think that's the important part of the next stage. So they've gone with Philo. They're going to bring in an assistant. They've got to hold their nerve with this next plan and have an actual plan, stick to it, and try and action it as it were. And that's the only way out of this mess, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. So in terms of recruitment for next season then, so far we've announced Dylan Lewis from Harlequins and Harry Beddle from Leicester Tigers. We expect Thomas Young, Seb Davis, Tina Stabia, Wyn Jones and the South African tighter from the Cheetahs, Robert Hunt. Those are the names so far. Chris, how do you think recruitment is shaping up for next season? This is a lot more positive, isn't it?
It is, but we would have said that last summer as well. So,
We did. That's the problem.
yeah, no. It's, they are there, and it's the old. They're trying to dangle a carrot with certain people. So they're all good. Some people might say, "Oh, they're Cardiff rejects," blah blah blah. Individually, they're all good. They're all good players that fit the bill. So you challenge them to go and do it. Like the same could be said with when they going back a while here, but so Matthew Screech and Corey Hill were from Cardiff and came and were and are tremendous servants for the Dragons. So of those, Thomas Young makes complete sense. He's still a good player, and now you've got the sort of how he works with Beddle. Be interesting what happens with Harry Keddy, who's sort of settled in at 7 recently, but then I suppose well, I'm jumping ahead there because Beddle, I don't think we'll see Beddle a ridiculous amount. That shouldn't be the plan, should it? He's still a young forward, so I think that will be their plan to drip him through. And we'll see with the others.
Yeah, it does feel like we've been here before, but on paper they do appear to be really good signings. And unfortunately, we have lost Tame Basham. That's a big blow, isn't it, Chris? I mean, it's been softened by bringing in Harry Beddle and Thomas Young, I think, but still, it's pretty disappointing when you see a local lad, Gwent boy, going to Cardiff, isn't it?
Oh, it is. But I completely understand Tame doing it. It's. I think a change will do him the power of good. Just experience something different. I look at. I know this is going to sound negative, but you look at Aaron Wainwright and you think, blimey, mate, you should you have shown just something, go and test yourself in the Premiership, really push yourself. Which is horrible to say. I love watching.
No, you're right.
He's a great bloke.
Yeah.
But there are times where you think you've got to just really have a crack somewhere else, and I think that's the case.
Just not at Cardiff. Supporters don't like it when you go to Cardiff. Have you gone to the Scarlets? Have you gone to the English Premiership? Because we know Saracens and Leicester and Sale were quite keen on him. But yeah, it's Cardiff, isn't it? Down the road.
It is, and I'm sure they'll, even he's on that pitch and the way they can play is, it can really get stuck in for him. So it'll be interesting to watch how he goes and how they use him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's end this then on a positive note, right? So, look, we all know this has been another disastrous season. Can you give us long-suffering supporters some hope and optimism here, Chris? What green shoots can we take out of this season and going into next season? Are there any reasons for optimism at all?
Well, well, there always are, aren't there? There's things to like, we've only got 40 odd days left of it, so that's I'm optimistic about that. I just think they need it to end now and can really start to move on to the next stage. There are some young players of talent coming through. How good they are, we'll see in due course, I think. But it just needs to be. This is where the realism comes in. They're on 9 points now. They're not going to go from 9 to being on like 30 odd next year, are they?
No.
It needs to be right. What can let's set some genuinely achievable goals for on-field success. I use success because that would be, as we say, it's probably getting certainly need a handful of wins, which I know that might sound negative, but a handful is improvement.
Yeah,
you're right.
Get a couple of derby wins. Challenge Cup was a big disappointment. I think I my doubts about some of the selections for that. I think that was a missed opportunity to. Like, they shouldn't be having next weekend off, should they? They should, with the situation they were in. That was a big chance to get in the last 16, even if it was an away tie. So it's not that far away getting some of these goals. It's not as mad as it seems. That little improvements could get quite good progress. I still think that there's too much of a gap to the other Welsh clubs, you'd have to say, and everyone else. But it's just they need that gap. Like the gap to 15th is that's embarrassing, isn't it? At the minute.
Very embarrassing. But
So
what
just,
constitutes success then, Chris, for next season for you? So, like for me, it would be not being the worst team in Wales. That would be a good place to start. I'm not asking for the world. I'm not asking for top 8 or Challenge Cup semi-finals. But I just don't want to be the worst team in Wales anymore. What constitutes success for you? Do you think?
Yeah, that should certainly be. I believe that should be a target, and it's it shouldn't be being best Welsh club. It's let's be
third best.
So that, but there's there's nothing wrong with that as a target.
No.
I think that's why they've leapt ahead with certain grand plans at times. Just set that in as being the first target. As you say, it's being shown a bit more resilience and fight on the road to maybe nick the odd win. They've just not been close on the road, have they? And that's been the case for a couple of seasons. Because there are in terms of positives, they are in a reasonable shape financially, aren't they? I know that Rodney Parade's getting used more by Wales teams. They've got the Bucks final and all that sort of thing. So there are signs of progress off the field, which will in time help on it. But it's just, I think especially for you lot, because you pay to go and watch them, and that first block gave you something, didn't it?
Yeah.
So is there a way of sustaining that for longer in a season? There will be times where, because of the budget they got, they're gonna have a bad month. But can they provide that sort of level for longer? That's what you want to see. And if you do that, you'll get on the right end of some of these tight games, that like the Ulster one that should have been won. So
no, absolutely right. Chris, it's been great to have you with us. Before you go, would you like to plug your work and maybe encourage our listeners to take out an Argus subscription? There is an offer on at the moment, I believe, isn't it, Chris?
Well, there's always offers. I think it's £1.99 a month, I think, is the way it is. So no, it's no, thank you to all those that do subscribe. It helps keep me in a job, and I'd like to think we provide some good value, not just me. It's if you want to read about people in court as well, you can subscribe away. But no, so for the Dragons and County stuff, I appreciate it. For people who do follow, I try and give them value for money with features and news and insights. So and it keeps my bosses happy when people do subscribe. So there we are.
No, I thoroughly recommend it. I'm a subscriber, and I'm not just saying this to blow smoke up your backside, Chris, but you do a really good job covering both Dragons and County. I really appreciate it, and it is worth the £1.99 that I pay every month. You do a good job.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Not a problem. Okay, we'll let you go now, Chris. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll have you back on next season. Maybe it'll be a better season. We might actually get a win to talk about, Chris. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
I'm sure, it's and brighter times. So now we are. No worries. All right.
Brilliant.
Yeah, just ask away. Yeah, I'm more than happy to come back. So all good.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thank you. We look forward to it. Okay,
cheers,
Chris. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye now. Ta-ra. There you go, Chris Kirwan there. Good to have him on the pod. Good to chat as always. And it's only £1.99 a month to subscribe to the Argus. So it is worth doing, because I always enjoy reading Chris's match reports and opinion pieces. He's always fair and balanced, in fairness. So good to have him on the pod to have another chat.
Absolutely.
So just one 5-star review this week, Gav. This is from Andy Steph, who simply says, "Great podcast, guys." That's it, and that's absolutely fine. That'll do us. That'll do us. You said 5 stars, just says great podcast, guys. We had a good reaction to the last podcast we did, particularly where we went in feet first on Warburton. That was very popular. So thank you to everyone who sent kind feedback. Thank you to Andy for his kind review. And if you want a shout out on the pod, then just leave a 5-star review and we'll give you a mention. Has to be 5 stars, not 3, no 4. We want 5 stars. And if you haven't done so already, don't forget to subscribe on the Rap YouTube channel and tell your Dragons mates about this as well. Help spread the word. It'll help grow the pod. Okay, it's time for our Gwent rugby roundup now, which includes Ebervale getting back to winning ways and Gwent Derby delight for Newport.
Indeed. So Thursday evening, Ebervale host Bridgend at Eugene Cross Park, Cineglass Stadium, and a 48-17 win for the Steelmen, including a wonderful try by Kobe Reese, who is absolutely rapid for a back rower.
Yes, yeah, one for the
But
future.
also a fantastic comeback by Newport. 35, I think it's 35-14 down with not much of the game to go to win 38-35 against Pontypool in the Gwent Derby.
Sounded like a crack. I wanted to go to that, but there was no way I was getting out to Mother's Day.
No.
I simply had to, there's no way the wife of the Levy gone to that, but it sounded like an absolute belter.
No, and it's been a weekend of close games and high-scoring games as well. So in the Prem, Cross Crees 21, Bargoed 29. Is Bargoed a Dragon side? No, I've always considered them to be a Cardiff side, but
No, they're Gwent. They're Dragons, Bargoed, yeah, very much so.
Then my apologies, Bargoed. I will I will up you more. Because Caerphilly is a bit, that Caerphilly Valley is a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because bits of it is Gwent historically and bits isn't.
It's got a Cardiff postcode, doesn't it? Caerphilly.
Yeah.
Some parts of Caerphilly, yeah.
Because New Tredegar's Caerphilly, County Borough, but Gwent. Anyway, I go off on a tangent. Astrid-Ronza 31, Newbridge 29. And then into the Championship, Mountain Ash 39, Talawine 26. Penaltha 20, Glamorgan Wanderers 21, Hailbiter there. Rumney 12, Bedwas 14. And not a good day for your boys at NSD. St. Peter's 87, NSD 31.
Gosh, that's an absolute hammer in that, isn't it? Fair play. Ouch.
Great game, I imagine, for the neutral. Less so if you're an NSD man there.
Oh, that's painful.
Into Division 1 East, Abergavenny 26, Nelson 38. Local derby in Blaenau Gwent, Ablairi 59. Ablairi Blaenau Gwent, sorry, 59. Blaenavon 19. Monmouth 42. Pontypool United 19. Into Division 2 East, an absolute cracker at Blackwood. Blackwood 43, Croeso-Ceiliog 42. Slightly less high scoring, but also close. Garndiffe 13, Cumbran 18, and Risca 20, Pill Harriers 29. Into Division 3 East, where one of the posh Wales derbies, Chepstow 42, Killeen 32. Nandy Globe 39, Fleur-de-Lis 22. New Panteg 41, Abertwsog 0. And another heavy defeat for one of the sides. Rumney 82, Oakdale 12. That would not have been a nice journey back home.
No.
Into Division 4, Bedwellty 15, Whitehead 21. Fordside 3, Betus 10. One for the purists there, I'd say. Llanilleth 17, Crumlin 26, and Pontlin Fife 14, Gwynafyd 92.
Ouch.
Yes, they are not the kind of games you want to be involved in. Division 5, Derry versus Mago was postponed. Hafod yr Ynys 18, Blackwood Stars 14. Another nail-biter, Hartridge 22, Beaufort 23. And Tredegar Ironsides 27, Hollybush 8. And Division 6A East also saw a heavy win, with Trinant won out 84 points to 7 winners against Girlin. And in the Dragons Athletic League, Hill Development 5, Blackwood Griffins 38.
Lovely stuff. Is that it?
Yeah, it is indeed.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So our next game is against the Scarlets at Judgment Day. And let's be honest, this is the most winnable game that we have left now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be pain in South Africa.
Yeah.
Did you see the Bulls and Zebra score?
I did.
Yeah, just think they put 63 points on Zebra. Imagine what they'll do to us. Yeah, just think about that. It's not nice, I know, but that's going to be a lot of pain. So we're going to do a full preview on the Scarlets Judgment Day game in a couple of weeks with a special guest, hopefully. But in terms of this season, Gav, we spoke about it with Chris there. It can't end soon enough, can it? I'm losing the will to live now with this season. I just want it to end now.
Just get it done. Just get it done. It's pointless now. Like, even if we beat Scarlets, it'll be nice to win. Particularly as it'll be sat near Scarlets fans, I imagine, when I'm watching it. But it'll mean nothing really, will it?
No, I did laugh at somebody on X the other day. I posted something and he replied, "Oh, this is one of the worst seasons I can remember as a supporter." I said, "Mate, it's not one of the worst seasons. It's the worst season. This is the worst ever Dragon season. It's been a disaster."
It's painful. And when I was talking to Chris, I was thinking, what would be acceptable for me, right? And I'm going to say something which on paper will sound ridiculous, but then when you think about it, isn't ridiculous at all. I would be super happy with 4 league wins, 2 cup wins.
Yeah, it's not exactly reach for the stars stuff, is it? But then you got to think now, we've sunk so low. We can't be this bad next season, surely. It can't get worse than this, Gav, can it?
Well, if you think about that, right, that's 6 wins, right? But that's actually a 300% improvement on the number of wins we've got this season if we had 6 wins.
Oh, I just think it's really sad, and I feel for the supporters. Like, I'm losing the will to live. I know there's supporters.
You're season ticket holders, like yourself and Gareth. Yeah, it's not often I think I'm quite pleased I'm so far away from Newport, but I'm quite pleased at the minute because.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's been season ticket holders longer than I have. They've been at Rodney Parade supporting the Dragons from the very beginning. And they're a great bunch of supporters, especially the ones on the terrace. And
deserve better.
They deserve better, Gav. And I'm watching this Friday night and I'm just thinking, oh, I felt like switching it off, but I didn't. For whatever reason, I kept watching it, but it's coming to a point now where it's just getting embarrassing, and I just want the season to end. But that's where we are.
Yeah,
that's just where we are, and I just hope we can improve next season. I am encouraged by the recruitment, but like Chris said earlier, we were saying the same thing, haven't we, on the last recruitment drive we did. So yeah, hopefully we'll see improvement, because like I said, it can't be as bad as this next season. And all it's doing is just proving the doubters wrong, as I said earlier. You look at the comment section, you look at what people say on social media. We're just proving everyone right with these uncompetitive, hapless performances, and that's what's really upsetting me at the minute. We should be going out on a limb to try and prove people wrong and just be more competitive, like we were against Ulster. Okay, we didn't win against Ulster, but we did come out and make a statement that we were competitive, and I want to see that going forward. But that's the problem, isn't it? They can't do it. No, they can't
sustain it.
No, they can't. It's like they have one really good game, that's their lot then, and then they run out of energy for the next game. But no, I am looking forward to Judgment Day. I am going to meet up with you when we're going to have a few beers, and it's going to be nice to see people. But in terms of the actual rugby, I'm not really looking forward to it. Scarlets had a really good win against Ospreys. So, and they'll be targeting us for 5 points because they're still in contention for the top 8. But anyway, we will talk more about that on the next pod, like I said, with hopefully a special guest. For this week, though, I think that's a wrap. I think we'll leave it there. Gavin, thank you for joining me, as always. And thanks again to our guest, Chris. Thank you to our friends at Riverside Sports Bar for their continued support of the podcast. We'll be back soon, like I said, to preview that Scarlets game. But until then, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. Ta-ra!